Guru Nation, I wanted to make a quick video for you as I'm here waiting for Monica to start a podcast. But there is something to be said about being a generalist and the economy that we're in right now. I mean, to say the least, it's volatile. Like, that's putting it mildly. It started with NIH job cuts, and it might end with job cuts across every industry, the way the economy's headed. But even if the economy is doing great, I think you need to position yourself in a way that you become a generalist after a short period of time. I think the best way to do this is finding small research clinics and working there. And I wrote an article on this, the four common virtues or themes that sites, small sites especially, but I think all sites need help with. And that is getting more studies, getting good budgets, getting patients for their studies and their operations. Everything else is kind of falls underneath one of these things. So most coordinators I know that work at small sites do about three of those four things. If they're ever curious, and which they have done in the past, and say, Dan, Monica is actually a perfect example when she used to work for me. Hey, I'm really interested in learning the budgets. We taught her how to do the budgets, right? That is that from the four that I just mentioned, that skill set's usually optional for being a generalist because it's so rare to have that. But that should be a sign for you guys. And so I think what you should do, whether it's a bad market, a good market, a neutral market, or whatever, is figure out a way to make yourself a generalist. And let's say you're out of a job. I would even try to find sites that you can volunteer at and let them know, hey, I want to do this, or what's to say, like, if you just got laid off, start your own consulting business. It costs $0 to do this, by the way. You can be a sole proprietor. You don't even need an LLC. Consult with a tax attorney if you want to go that route. But I'm just thinking from the perspective of not having a gap in your resume. Now, there's all other podcast topic on are gaps in your resume okay? Of course they're okay. But there's many people out there where the gap goes longer than they would like. I really think you should consider your own sole proprietorship. And what services could you possibly offer? Well, if you had experience in any of those four things I mentioned, you may have been laid off from the NIH. You have at least one of those four themes down, right? Remember, business development, aka getting studies or getting more clinicians interested. Budgets, contracts and budgets. That's number two. Patient recruitment, number three, and operations. There's no way if you were spent any amount of time in any job in clinical research at any stakeholder, whether it's a site, a CRO, a sponsor, an IRB, a tech vendor, you have experience. At the worst case, you have transferable skills to start offering these services to sites. And remember, all these things have sub skills underneath. So operations, that's huge. It could mean study startup, it could mean quality assurance, it could be making source documents for sites, it could be making workflows, it could be setting sites up with the right tech stacks. If it's patient recruitment, it could mean online patient recruitment, paid patient recruitment, branding patient recruitment, offline patient recruitment. You can specialize in these kind of things. Working with patient advocacy groups, very few people do that last part I just mentioned. That's a niche right there. If it's contracts and budgets, again, that's a whole universe on its own. But I know many of you that have gotten laid off have experience on that side. Bring it to private industry. There is still a robust market at the private industry side. Things are not as elegant, things don't flow as smooth. Things are not as professional, especially the smaller the site gets. You start getting into mom and pop businesses. But these are precisely the people that need generalist help. And even if the economy turns, people, meaning business owners in this context, would much rather, if there's a shaky economy, I'm a site owner. My site, thank God, knock on wood, is pretty stable still. But if things turn south where it's not so stable, I would much rather have an independent contractor than a full-time employee. Of course, in an ideal world, I want the full-time employees. But if we're living in a volatile world, I want the flexibility of fractional employee, fractional consultant. Let me pay you for certain things that you offer. If you are an individual that just got laid off and you don't want a gap in your resume, you can start offering this to sites in your area. So locally to you is going to be the easiest because sites, especially when things get chaotic, want that local presence. But you're not limited to just local in where you live. You can do this now. Most sites use some form of technology. You can do a lot of these things remotely. And so it's all a matter of how you position yourself, how you brand yourself as a kind of a thought leader. You have to actually shift your mindset from employee to thought leader. And there's not much of a shift that's actually needed. If you are an employee and you've worked someplace even a year, and you have good ideas that you've always thought, you know what, I saw at my last job, this was something where they could have done better. So I have this idea where we can do it this way. What are you actually doing? You're hypothesizing now strategies. That's a thought leader. Thought leaders are not just people that do TED Talks or go on Save Our Sites panels or whatever other conferences are out there. Thought leaders are people that tinker with ideas and help bring positive outcomes to the stakeholders that hire them. You need to position yourself as such. Now, is it for everyone? No, not everyone's going to be successful doing this because you need to be resilient. You need to work way harder than you ever thought you're going to work. If you're one of those employees that just shows up and are told what to do every day, and if no one's telling you what to do, you don't do anything, you're going to struggle working for yourself because it's never been easier or harder simultaneously than it is to work for yourself. Take it from me, it requires self-discipline, it requires something intrinsic. And I think you got to reach down inside and figure out what do I have? How do I motivate myself if you need help with that? Most people I talk to that have been laid off don't have the confidence to pull it off. That's something different than the motivation. Confidence means they don't feel they are worthy, which is another problem in and of itself that requires another mindset shift. There's a lot that you have already done if you've worked at any stakeholder in this industry and you've done a decent job. Now, if you've done a horrible job, I hate to break it to you, you're going to have a much harder time following the strategy. But if you've done a decent to good job, there's other companies that are going to want to siphon off some of those benefits without putting in all the risk that comes with hiring you as an employee. Now, will it be as comfy or as cushy of a job as you had before? No. Those jobs will come back, I hope. But for the time being that they're not, what's your alternative? The way I see it, this is the alternative. And you can do multiple things at once. You can put yourself out there for business as a consultant, as a fractional, whatever you call it. If it doesn't exist, what you want to do, you invent the idea and do it. Then you go on LinkedIn and start talking about this topic and the ancillary topics near it. So now you're becoming a marketer and a promoter for your own business, which is branding. Welcome to the club. And then you network. And then you're going to work a lot for free in the form of giving people advice, giving people ideas. You're not getting paid for every time you post something on LinkedIn, but you hope you get enough eyeballs engaging with you and people think that you have something of value to where they want to have conversation. And you can even start movements. Look at Elizabeth from Clinical Research Referral Club who came, she been on the podcast twice now. She didn't ask for permission. She saw a need for people to network with each other and she's done it. She has no gap on her resume. Whether her business makes money or not, which I don't know. She deserves to be successful in it. But whether she makes money in it or not is not anyone's business except hers. No one's going to ask that. If she should go look for a job later in the future, they'll clearly see there was not a gap. She was doing this, Clinical Research Referral Club. That's very interesting. How did that go? That's unique. That makes you different. That makes you not ubiquitous. And these are the things we got to start thinking about. So I don't want to go too long on this. I could go on forever, but I just wanted to get some motivation out there because I know the job market's tough. This is what I would do if I was in the situation. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know in the thoughts. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, and good luck.